the program manager of the pitch. If you haven't come across the pitch before, every year we run investment advice and support for small business owners. So have a look at our website for lots of opportunities to get help with your business. We're here today to talk about moving from reactive thinking to future ready working. And that sounds like a quite dense subject, but anyone that's run a business, even if you're right at the beginning of the journey, will know that often you can be very much in the business, in the trenches, and it can be quite hard to sort of get your head up and take a moment to get the right systems in place so that you can grow in a really effective way. So we're going to give you some practical tips on doing that over the course of about 20 minutes. And hopefully you'll have a few gems that you can walk away with and apply to your own business. So I'll be joined in a second by Amit, and I'll get him to introduce himself. Amit's from Vodafone, who, as you know, are a partner of the pitch this year. They've got a fantastic offer for free coaching sessions to any founders that need support with their business. So it could be that you need help with your marketing plan, setting KPIs, that kind of thing. It's one-on-one coaching calls. It's tailored to what you need. So if you do feel like you want support, just jump onto the pitch homepage or look in the show notes and you'll find a link to book a session. So totally recommend that, and we'll include the details below. So Amit, it'd be lovely if you could just start by introducing yourself, and then we'll talk about these concepts and what business owners can do to improve the way they work.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone. I'm Amit Jhinzuvadia. I work with Vodafone Business in the UK as the head of commercial strategy for our enterprise division, and absolutely thrilled to be here with Chris to talk through some of the work that we are doing and the support service that VHub provides to small and medium businesses across the UK.
Brilliant, thank you. And I think it'd be great, just for context, if we start by just introducing this idea of reactive thinking, and you know, in your own words, like, what does that mean to you, I guess?
Yes, absolutely. If we think about the background and the macroeconomic situation of the last few years, we have seen the reality of a highly dynamic world that we live in, both from a business and from a personal perspective. So when I think about reactive thinking and its impact on business, I think about a couple of things. One, where the reality is that businesses need to be able to make quick pivots and adapt to these macro and micro factors that are around us. Businesses that have the strategic foresight to think ahead of this ever-changing marketplace will survive and thrive, while the more reactive ones will be heavily disrupted. And when I think about it, the opportunity cost of being reactive is very high in today's world. If we take, for example, a small or a medium business which is looking at the baby or the parents market, and if we think about just the UK market, where there are, or UK as a country where there are 700,000 births approximately a year, we're talking about 2,000 births a day. And as a business owner, when you think about that size of customer base, every month, every week, every day is important. And that's what I mean by the opportunity cost of being reactive. The other aspect of that is new and agile businesses in every sector. They have a digital first genesis, and that helps them disrupt some of the more established players and punch above their weight. So that's how we at Vodafone think about proactive thinking around how to run a business.
Yeah, and I think absolutely the digital first thing is so critical, isn't it? It's been beautiful to see over the last 10, 15 years, the number of industries that have been disrupted because the players coming into them are kind of starting afresh, and they're building their processes in a very, very different way. And that is how you can outcompete much, much larger, better capitalized organizations.
Absolutely.
And what about the steps? So I think we can all kind of empathize with that reactive thinking as business owners. We've been in that situation, but what are the steps founders can take to kind of recognize those situations?
I think One one thing is the amount of time and also mind space as a business owner, which is already at a premium, that is being allocated to do the research, listen to the trends that are impacting the business ecosystem. That's easier said than done because there's so much happening. There are so many avenues of getting information, and when you think about applying those to how the business should transform digitally or adopt digital, if it is not an already digital driven business, it can be overwhelming. But thinking over a longer term horizon than just the next month, next quarter, starts building that view of a more proactive approach, and moving from being reactive to what happens to the business.
Yeah, and is there any kind of practical things you can think of in terms of building routines around that? So maybe it's that, once a week you go to a certain type of event, or once a quarter you have a review of the possible opportunities. Like how can people build that in and make it become part of their everyday routine?
The one way to think about it is, and this is what we employ in Vodafone. My team leads the thinking of what we call our 18-month plan. So we think of a forward-looking duration starting now at any point in time in the year, which goes beyond the typical financial year's planning, or next X quarters planning, and it looks beyond that for an 18-month period. And we do it on a rolling basis. So what you said, absolutely right. On a quarterly basis, we refresh our thinking, we reflect on the quarter that's gone by, and add another quarter, so to say, at the end of that 18-month period. And what we do with that is we proactively look at what's happening in the market, what is going to happen in the market. I dare say it can feel a bit like gazing into a crystal ball, but when we start triangulating what we read, what we listen to, the who's who in private and public sector, look at the technology trends, and the evolution of customer needs that we can get from it, you start building a story or a thread of what are the key priority areas to address over that medium term period, and that helps us be more proactive. And I would highly recommend that approach of thinking to businesses across any sector. And we actually define our themes that we want to talk about and focus on off the base of that 18-month plan.
As I really like that way of sort of conceptualizing it. And also you sort of picked on the different sources of information. So the fact that you might be listening to podcasts or something like that, but you're also talking to interesting people, looking at trends and so on. And I think one of the things I've loved about sort of following the impact of ChatGPT and thinking about what generative AI means for us, is just, you have some fascinating conversations with people, and often they'll be not even in my industry, but just by chatting to them, they kind of add a little bit more context that helps me start to ground some of this stuff and be like, well, what actually is the opportunity, right? So it's getting those kind of interesting conversations in as well.
Absolutely. ChatGPT, I completely agree. When there's so much of diverse sources of knowledge or insights available, ChatGPT can be super useful to organize and collate those streams of information into top level relevant topics, or a short list of relevant topics to focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about the information in people's or business owners' own companies? Like, what is there anything you'd say around kind of keeping on top of that and making sure you're aware of what's happening in terms of the data you have accessible in your own company?
Yes, so data driven, and this is discussed a lot, right? Data driven decision making, data driven performance measurement, all of these super critical for businesses. The one thing that I would call out is, one, the challenge around gathering the right data points. They do exist across businesses, and the larger the more complex you get in your business setup, it might find overwhelming to identify and actually measure all the data points that you would need. The focus there should be on a streamlined focused list of priority KPIs for the business at any point in time, and really work on the inputs and outputs going into moving those KPIs. You can control the inputs going in as a business owner, as a business facilitator, and the more you can sharpen those inputs going in, the better chances of the outputs being in line with your expectations. So I always think of the data and the KPIs not in isolation, but also thinking about what inputs and outputs relate to those KPIs.
Absolutely. That phrase I think is absolutely spot on. Streamline KPIs. So it's not that you're trying to move, particularly at the start of your entrepreneurial journey, you're not trying to prove, a dozen numbers or 24 numbers. It's that you really have drilled it down to the couple of numbers that will dictate kind of the future and the outcomes, like you say, that you want. You mentioned the term future ready working as well. So help kind of demystify that for us. Like, what does that mean in sort of practical terms?
Yeah. So our 18-month plan that I referred to, our current focus is on three main themes. Future ready working is the topmost on that. And then the other two we focus on are sustainability and productivity. Future ready working for us covers three key aspects of or for a business. One is the workspaces, the working environment, and making them smarter, more intelligent for what is now a very hyper-connected workforce across any business. Two, it's all about providing seamless hybrid experiences that help drive collaboration, employee engagement, and ultimately help also drive productivity, which is actually a big question and talking point at the moment for UK PLC. And third aspect of future ready working is ultimately better business control and resilience in the dynamic environment that we talked about by putting in place the right digital foundations to run the business.
Yeah. Can you expand on that last point a bit and just kind of what changes people might be able to make or how they could think about that?
Absolutely. So when we think about digital transformation, adoption of digital, the one key aspect, and that can be a bit daunting for business owners, is the digital infrastructure to put in place to run and grow the business, and that infrastructure is also important if a business is sufficiently large sized and with a workforce that is spread across locations, or if it is working in a hybrid fashion where it enables collaboration, and at the same time, while enabling collaboration, it maintains the security of all the devices, all the locations that the employees use, and also helps drive productivity regardless of the location, the device that an employee is working on. So that is a big area of focus, the digital infrastructure itself.
Yeah. And where's your head at with the kind of the evolution now? So obviously hybrid working is kind of become the norm. Do you kind of see that being the case among the businesses you work with? Is that going to carry on?
Absolutely, yes. So when we talk to, let me step back. We read in the media about large businesses actually starting to enforce days in the office, and putting in minimum days a week, for example, for their employees to come in. But we see still a large proportion of businesses of all sizes preferring to stay hybrid and preferring to provide flexibility of work location to their employees, and that actually becomes a USP to attract high caliber talent into the business who are looking for the highest degree of flexibility. So from our perspective, and this is what we reflect internally within Vodafone as well, we are anticipating that flexibility of hybrid working to continue, work anywhere, as a lot of people like to call it. And the requirement that it drives is effectively connecting the workforce via multiple channels of communication, be it a traditional phone call, Teams or Zoom has become quite relevant now. Some businesses use WhatsApp, for example, as a regular medium of communication. So across any of the channels of communication, be effective and have the operational support of the technology and the processes underlying those digital channels that will help with seamless hybrid working. And connectivity is key to all of this. We see that being UK's connectivity provider, and alongside that, businesses need to keep in mind that security and the business resilience that goes hand in hand with the digital capabilities they have.
And you mean, when that final point, you mean in terms of sort of cyber security and just making sure that all those locations, all those devices are looked after?
Yes, it's about cybersecurity first and foremost. So there's security of business data, there's security of third-party data, and obviously customer data. But it is also about the availability of connectivity, which is uninterrupted, which is of a consistent quality, to make sure that a digitally oriented business is not affected by the quality or the dip in their connectivity. So yes, security is, but the reliability and the quality aspect of the connectivity is also super important for businesses.
Yeah. And to build that out on the cultural side, so is there any advice you'd recommend based on the companies you work with in terms of getting, the sort of engagement from employees and the buy-in, and making sure that in spite of, having all the benefits of hybrid, you still get, people that are working together well and innovating, and how you build that hybrid culture in a great way?
Yes, the balance of remote working with face-to-face time is critical. We've seen post-pandemic the great return to work, as it was called earlier, I think, and the ethos behind it need to be focused on the purpose of face-to-face collaboration for brainstorming, to understand or drive a common understanding of complex business problems, to make key critical business decisions by coming together, and ultimately, as businesses grow in size, the functions that are there within a business will grow. There'll be marketing, there'll be sales, there'll be technology, which is not the case when if a company is coming from a small size background where small number of people do multiple roles. So that cross-functional collaboration starts becoming very important, and that drives the need to combine hybrid working with face-to-face time, whether in the office premises or at any other third-party locations. But we look at it as a key driver of collaboration and effectiveness.
Yeah, and I think, that the types of activity you picked out there are really interesting, right? Because it's all stuff that is, kind of the most intense informationally, right? So you're talking about brainstorming, you're talking about like complex topics, and that is when, being face to face really, really helps. Certainly for me, and I think a lot of the way people work, like, it's amazing how much we can do remote, but actually, throwing ideas off each other and kind of experimenting and stuff is so valuable.
Yeah, and it goes beyond, because you mentioned culture, and culture, imbibing, cultivating a great working culture also keeps in mind the aspects outside of work. And what I mean by that is um, thinking about ways that teams can collaborate beyond the work in front of them. We recently had in my team, and Vodafone encourages this quite heavily with the number of annual charity days that are available to us. So my team and I spent some time, the whole day actually, earlier in the week, spending time with a school in London, just helping them with any and everything they required to do. So we looked at spending time clearing out their playground so children have a clean area to play in during autumn, and we help put together their school Christmas tree. And when we did that as a team activity, and that kind of bonding culture and the availability of time that Vodafone as an organization provides all of us, that also helps drive that deeper collaborative culture, which extends beyond your day-to-day work.
Yeah, that's a really, really nice example. And finally, for the founders that are listening, like where it'd be great to hear a bit more about where they can get support and guidance, and maybe you could introduce VHub as well and what's on offer there.
Yes. So, as you know, Vodafone Business, we provide complete connectivity solutions, but we underpin them with a strong focus on the right digital foundations of a future-ready business. We talked about some of the technology solutions, collaboration tools, cybersecurity solutions, the underlying connectivity behind it. But there's another important aspect of this, which is super important for founders, for early stage businesses, and even mature small businesses, which is business support that provides and demystifies digital, its applicability, so what it is, how it can be useful for a business to grow and to enable great experiences for its customers. So that comes to life with our VHub digital support surveys. Now VHub just celebrated its third birthday a few weeks ago, and we've supported hundreds of thousands of businesses across the UK. What it is essentially it's a digital support service that is available to anyone, regardless of whether they are Vodafone customers or not, which is a big thing for us to keep that objectivity and not close it for any specific groups of businesses. And it's available through our digital channels and through face to face, well, not face to face, but phone call conversations or video call conversations with advisors based on the tailored needs of a business.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that that explanation, Amit. And like as I said, yeah, if you do want to take advantage, I'll include a link below, so you can go and book a call, or you can just check out the pitch homepage. And again, we've got a really simple link for you to click on there. Look, so I really appreciate your time today, and yeah, thanks for taking part.
Thanks very much, Chris. I thank you for having me with you, and really enjoyed talking through our perspectives on all things digital. And obviously on VHub. Hope people find it, hope business owners find it valuable and leverage it.
Brilliant. Thank you.